We live in a complex society, one of specialization. Everyone knows something, but few understand how things fit together. The average person drives a car without knowing how it runs, uses a phone without knowing how it's made, lives in an economy, a democracy, a digital world, all built by invisible hands. We've created a civilization so intricate that survival depends on trust. Trust that others, the experts, the specialists, know what they're doing. Trust that the systems we rely on are honest and are built for our good. But what happens when that trust is misplaced? Enter the modern age, where nearly every system we depend on has become institutionally corrupt. Not corrupt in the cartoonish sense, not brown envelopes under the tables. We all can identify individual cases of corruption. But something far more insidious has happened. Corruption baked into the rules themselves. As Lawrence Lessig once put it, it's a corruption of dependence, a system designed to serve itself. Law, business, media, even science, each guided less by truth or public good, and more by self-preservation, influence, and profit. And yet, within the boundaries of law and policy, it all appears ethical, it all appears normal, corruption redefined as compliance. Meanwhile, academia, once the engine of critical thought, has been repurposed to produce obedient specialists. People trained not to question systems, but to serve them. Unquestioning professionals who know everything about something, but almost nothing about how things work together. The intellectual generalists who once saw the whole have been thinned out, disincentivized, or silenced. They know what's happening, but lack the courage or the platform to say it. And so, the public, disconnected, distracted, and demoralized, reacts to events they truly don't understand. Their anger is real, but their targets are chosen for them. Their opinions are shaped by propaganda, their attention monetized by outrage, their divisions engineered by design. Those who control the levers of wealth, media, and technology have learned how to steer entire populations through emotion, not reason. They don't need to censor ideas when they can drown them in noise. They don't need to ban freedom when they can redefine it. In a world of endless complexity, where most are specialists and few are generalists, control becomes a matter of perception. A population that doesn't understand how systems work can never understand how they're controlled. And so we continue, reacting, scrolling, consuming, believing we are free, while the systems hum quietly above us, self-sustaining, self-serving, and almost entirely invisible. Punk here. You know, I believe what Eckhart Tolle says is correct. That in order for humanity to survive, it's going to have to level up its consciousness. It's going to have to expand its consciousness, our consciousness. I also believe what Anthony DeMello says is true, that awareness, ever-expanding awareness, is of itself the goal. I also believe that we have to sometimes label things and understand what they are, especially the things that are dragging us down, like institutionally corrupt systems. I belabor this point and as I say, there's one concept I could impart upon the world for people to understand, it is the concept of institutional corruption. How institutions become corrupt. And the fact that, we are living in a time where we are awash in institutionally corrupt systems. But people haven't labeled these things as such. They are still, and even worse, they're still putting their trust in these systems. Maybe they grew up with these systems. These systems have shaped their entire worldview, right? You have powerful, wealthy people. I mean, the most powerful and wealthy people, committed to preserving the status quo. Our federal government, that's basically what it has become. Preservation of the status quo. I believe that all of our systems over the last, say, 50 years in particular, have become institutionally corrupt by insiders, special interests, and it's so normal now that we don't question these things, but we can tell that we're being exploited. We can tell that we're being used. We can tell that things are getting harder. We can tell that, that things aren't really working that well. We're suffering from all sorts of health issues, mental health issues. And it's because our systems, those systems that we all rely on, are corrupted. But they're corrupted in a way that it's legal, it's normal, it's ethical. One of the great tragedies of our time is that we have this highly credentialized population. Lots and lots of college degrees out there. But very few people know how to think. We have a dearth of intellectualism because it's the intellectuals who can, what is an intellectual? An intellectual is a person who thinks about and analyzes the normative problems of society, the problems of society, and proposes solutions to them. We don't have people who have large enough knowledge bases to understand what's going on out there, how everything works together, because it's all very complex. And in complex systems like this, we all sort of become specialists, and each one of us generally does a pretty good job, or tries to. Whether you be a mother, a ditch digger, a surgeon, a banker, a politician, a lawyer, we all assume that they're all doing a pretty good job. And that, they generally want good things for other people, right? But what happens when that's still true, but the systems themselves, the systems we're all working for or working within, have become corrupted? Well then, it no longer matters what your intentions are or if you're a good person. You know what I mean? The systems that you're obeying have become corrupted. They no longer serve their purpose, or the purpose has been waylaid, or whatever the right word you want to use, and serve insiders and special interests. Now, I've been interfacing with the federal government for the last 10 years. And I assure you, certainly within the defense industry, the focus is not on the warfighter or national security or any of those things. It's focused on the system that they've created where people are benefiting big time. And there's a whole system that pats them on the head and gives them rewards and awards. It's kind of like, elementary school, and you get your little star all the time. The system rewards those who play along, and it basically frustrates or gets rid of those who don't. I've also experienced that. So that's happened in education and healthcare, and I think we all know this, but yet so many of us, because I guess it's due to a lack of awareness, trust these systems because I guess we don't know what else to do. Because we want to believe that these systems are for us. We want to believe that these systems are good. We want to believe. Or we're just so ignorant that we can't understand anything else. You know, a friend said, "Oh, Kristen, I've watched some of your videos, and while they're pretty good, it sounds like you're calling people stupid all the time." And I'm like, "Oh man, that's not my intent." But stupidity meaning, doing actions and behaviors that don't particularly benefit yourself and don't particularly benefit others, or harm oneself and harm others, is a theme of our time. There are a lot of people who are doing things politically and saying things and yelling at people and being divisive and doing things because they're angry, because they're frustrated. And they're being told to do these things. And I get it. And everybody's anger, or most people's anger, especially the young, is justified. But because they are still playing within the same confines, the same systems, the same levels of consciousness, or even lower. I mean, what's sad is that we seem to be, for some of us seem to be drifting lower into lower and lower states of consciousness. I mean, some of this political division stuff is degrading people so badly. And they're becoming more, we're going in the wrong direction there. And maybe that's purposeful. Of course it is. Most of what is happening today is purposeful, I believe. I've been watching it now for years. I mean, I was the guy that used to annoy people when I used to tell people, this is what's happening, this is what's happening. "Oh, you're such a negative Nelly." I'm like, I'm not trying to be negative, this is just what's happening, And I mean, it's because I think about these things. I actually think about these things. I analyze them, and I read other people who think about these things. Now, I was talking to my wife the other day, and it dawned on me that there are people out there with opinions and who are passionate, whose entire lives on a day-to-day basis may be thinking about beauty products, shopping, distracting themselves with trivial TV like Real Housewives, scrolling through the social medias, going to a blah 9-to-5 job. And this is their entire life. And occasionally they'll turn on the news, or they'll see what other people they respect are saying on social media. And then they have passionate opinions and are out there yelling at people or pretending like they know things. You know what I mean? And it's like, that's not how one comes to know things. You don't know, and these are the people who truly are stupid, because they are doing things that don't really benefit themselves, getting angry and frustrated and pretending like you know things when you don't. Doesn't benefit yourself. And then you're actually spewing that out into the world, or you're voting for things that you don't understand that may actually hurt you and others. That is the definition of stupidity, and it is a huge theme within our society. So am I calling people stupid? Yes, but I'm trying to get them to not be, to raise above that. They don't have to be stupid. They don't have to let the bandits control them. We can try to together. I mean, we all could do better, I think, at this point. I think we all could do better. And I think we all kind of know that. And because I've never seen a period in our history where we have projected, since I've been alive at least, that we've projected as much of our own stuff outwards onto others. The concept of righteous hate, because the left as you see, feels very righteous within their hate because they perceive that the other side is filled with hate. Now, the media is manipulating all of this, right? Because if they would just step outside of their bubble and just talk to people, they'd realize, oh, that hate doesn't actually exist. That in fact, this nation's never really been more tolerant and more tolerant than it has been, than it is now. Unfortunately, that's changing because of all the energies and pushbacks and stuff like that. But that's not because of something historical. That's something happening now. Anyway, I've gone on a tangent just because I'm out for a walk and I'm talking to you, hopefully. But I do believe if we could understand that what we are dealing with is massive institutional corruption, then hopefully we have some intellectuals that have been hiding in the corners, you know, a little maybe too scared to talk because, you know, what's the opposite of courage? It's conformity, right? It's not cowardliness, it's conformity. Conformity, you know, if you're just conforming to whatever the mainstream is, I mean, it's likely today that you're part of the problem because all of this stuff is being manipulated. I mean, we can see it. I mean, even just, you know, it's funny because we even have a term for it online, influencers. You know, when you go online today, you are being influenced in some way or shape. Somebody's selling you something, it seems. I guess I'm selling you something. I'm trying to sell the idea that we live in institutionally corrupt times and that we need to start identifying this so that we can start to come up with real solutions, not these rehashes of 19th and 20th century ideas. Oh, we got to do socialism. We got to do communism. I'm like, so you're going to give more power. You're going to give more centralized power to the state, which is what they want. I mean, during institutionally corrupt times. I mean, if socialism and communism are to ever work, it needs a couple of things. It needs, you know, it needs for people to be good, honest actors and working on the other's behalf. We don't have people like that really in power today. That's certainly not, that does not describe inside the beltway of 2025. These are some of the most self-serving people out there. You know what I mean? And they don't give a shit about us. They really don't. They don't give a shit about us. So when people are all sympathetic, oh, the government workers, oh, whatever. You know what I mean? We could probably get rid of half of the federal workforce and we would only become more efficient and better. In fact, we could probably get, at this point with AI coming online, we could probably get rid of 2/3 of the federal workforce, at least certainly the bureaucracy, and become far more efficient and see far more value. But first we got to get rid of these systems. You know what I mean? These systems that we are operating on that they largely serve to protect at this point need to be reformed. I actually think most of them need to be essentially burned to the ground and rebuilt. But we need intellectuals. That's one of the things that we really, really need within our society right now. We need, forget these credentialized, indoctrinated, you know, people who basically come to just uphold the status quo. Who cares about these people? They did as they were told. They bought into a system. No, we need the true critical thinkers. We need the people who really can use reason again, not just emotion. You know, when it comes to public discourse. We need to be able to have public discourse. Also, you know, it can't just all end in name calling, shrieking, and emotional, hysterical displays, right? We need to be able to sit down and have rational, reasonable discussions. It seems obvious. A lot of things seem obvious. You know, I mean, I've been working, as I said, with the federal government in their, you know, for defense acquisition and federal acquisition more broadly for R&D and new capabilities. And there's not a whole lot of reason, common sense, or anyway, I could go on and on about that. It was very disappointing. It was very disappointing to see so many people who are smart people become subservient to a system that essentially guarantees that what they do has poor outcomes. You know, smart people serving a stupid system. And we all want to do better than that. You know, lately we're having the healthcare debate again. Another highly institutionally corrupt system. And instead of identifying the fact that it's an institutionally corrupt system, you know, once again, we're just, how can we expand it more? How can we take more taxpayer money and expand it and make it even more costly? You know, nobody ever talks about making the whole system cheaper. No, they just talk about coverage. We need more insurance schemes. We need more taxpayer money to go into a corrupt system. Academia is corrupt, you know, because academia was supposed to be the place where people learn to use this thing, learn to think, learn to reason. Now it's become a place to just fall in line, sell out, protect the status quo, the current systems. You know, they've become the guardians of the outmoded. It's time to become aware, and it's time for a new intellectual rising or something, because we need it. We need good people again. We don't need all of these people just pushing this bad ideology, these corrupted ideologies, you know, that don't take into account who we as humans are. You know, and that's what I see a lot of, where there's a lot of frustration for me today, is that there's a lot of stuff that sounds good, right? If you only can understand things from a surface level and you don't know how things work. There's a lot of that stuff being presented. I see a lot of people getting passionate about stuff that, you know, doesn't take into account our history, who we are as a species, our needs, what's truly meaningful to us. You know, we're all being, you know, and that's what I don't like about socialism and communism, is that we all have to fall in line and just become cogs in a machine. Serve the state. You know what I mean? Where, you know, for those of us who appreciate liberty and the intellectual thought that it took to come up with concepts of liberty, because that was not always a given, by the way. Man's natural state is tyranny. We always trend in that direction, and it took us many eons to actually come up with the idea of libertad, of liberty, of we are free, sovereign human beings. But in doing so, in being free, in living within a democratic republic, that also means we have power. And with power comes great responsibility. And that's where we, the people, I think, have failed. You know, instead of, too many of us don't understand enough. We don't understand how the banking and finance system and monetary system works. We don't understand, you know, why healthcare is as expensive as it is. We don't understand that we want education, not just credentialization. We don't understand, because most of us are completely unconcerned. We don't care. Many of us just don't care. I'm thinking about makeup. I'm thinking about that social media post. I'm thinking about the drama in my life. But there are people around me who tell me what to think. Anyway, I'm actually one of the few people who thinks it should be harder to vote. That we should all have to pass a test, or there should be some requirement, because voting really is a tremendous privilege. And the fact that, today we don't care if there's been election rigging just as long as our guy wins, or people who aren't even citizens here, or people who may not even share any of the same ideas of the founding of the principles of our nation, our values, or anything, allowed to vote. I mean, Western Civ is more unique than most people seem to understand. And they don't appreciate it, and they take it for granted these days. But they don't, and it is dying. I mean, it's dying so fast and so rapidly, and it appears to be purposeful. It appears to be purposeful, I mean, if you want to bring in a global, digitalized, totalitarian system, the thorn in your side is going to be the people who believe in, I'm going to be honest with you. It's going to be the European white guy. He's the only one that ever kind of stood up and believed in things like liberty and, came up with these intellectual philosophies that support an individual's sovereign rights and things like that. All the other places are these sort of collectivist societies, or societies that still believe in tyranny. You know what I mean? So I don't know. The inheritance of Western Civ is weighing heavy on the few, because it's slipping away. It's going away very fast, and I think most people don't understand that. They take so much of the fruits, the hard labor that it took to get to this spot, and take it for granted today. So I have been learning more. I've been trying to dive more into history lately, because I want to understand how hard it was to get here. And it has been hard. And today we treat all the blessings of it, and we take it for granted. And it's so, and it's going to disappear on us, and we're going to, and we're never going to be, and we're not going to be able to get it back, at least not in any short term. It'll take just as much, And for what? Because we indulged in delusions and prioritized convenience and I don't know. And we left it up to the experts. Anyway, I hope you become an expert in you and we all together. I don't know what else to say other than sound cheesy. That we all move into a new age where we have heightened consciousnesses. But at first we have to identify the crap that's keeping us down. And it ain't just Trump. All these people scapegoating the political parties. You're all just playing the game. You're all just weakening yourselves and others. You're not a part. None of you are a part of the solution. The people who are just yelling and screaming and just, you watch it on social media. Oh, this is what this group of people thinks today. And in unison, they all say exactly the same damn thing. Like yesterday, it was, oh, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, those people are not a part of the solution. Whatever the end outcome is to their actions and what they're doing is going to be harmful it's probably going to benefit some and be harmful for many. Anyway, I just keep rambling. Thank you for coming along on this walk. I hope you're doing well. you know, I see it as we're all in it together. So I'll pray for good things. I hope you will too. Peace.